his crew over the years, I mean, I remember the day, Bill, when you had, what, 2 or 3 semis? Yeah, his sound crew would go to do a show, and he would roll 2 semis.
Yes, Lord.
I mean, that's the level of sound that this gentleman's been doing. And it's a second generation business, by the way, and I'll let him, he can tell you about that, or you saw it in the bio. But I want to also mention his association with us here. Bill has been our vendor for large sound systems for many years.
Yes.
He installed the line array system in the pavilion. In fact, he put in this awesome sound system in this building. You notice you don't see any speakers on the wall. You notice that? Just take a look up. And you see the sound was distributed throughout the building, and he's also designed it so you can manipulate what's covered. We even have a switch to turn it off in the bathroom. Or on. So while you're in there, for whatever period of time,
Amen.
You're not going to miss anything. Okay? And sometimes the kitchen crew, they want to hear what's going on in here. He designed our system and installed it. And this was a new installation or a new building, new construction. And Bill came in, and he and I kind of collaborated, and he put in everything you hear. We have not had any major failure with this sound system since it was made. We may have had one mic that went a little wacko. I think that, whatever. Yeah. Bill does so many installations that, whatever you say. But just to attest to the quality of the work he does and why he does it that way. He's also done the paging system for the campus. He's done the sound system for the Pine Forge Academy gym. Just an awesome guy. And I'm proud to say his sons work with him. Sons work with him. There's something about sons and dads in this business, You remember Joe Pagano? For those of you that have returned, RGB, his company that he does, his sons work for him too. I'm just saying. Another shameless plug. But Bill is a great technician, a great guy, top professional. I learned from Bill. Sometimes I thought I knew a few things, and Bill would say, "Oh no, it's like this," and I'll say, "Oh yeah, I knew that." He's a good guy. So this is going to be a very informal session, and I want Bill's going to say a few words, and we had talked about some of the issues that you guys have in churches, and they span a wide scope, can't hear, bad mics, whatever. Bill's going to talk a little bit about installations and what to look for, especially when you're dealing with contractors, and then we'll just kind of let it flow from there. He'll take your questions as you go. And, no PowerPoint, yay, no slides. So you just get to hear what his professional experience has brought in. And our association with Bill, we can attest to his professionalism in this company, because everything he's done up here has been done perfectly. We talked about that yesterday. There's no good enough installation up here with Bill. He's done a great job. And doesn't this sound system sound great? Yeah. It's just awesome. It's so natural. And he looked at this building. He knew what had to go in here. And we've just been really pleased. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Fitch of Sound Like Fitch.
Thank you. I'm not sure I can live up to all that. Thanks, Chuck. I'm very glad to be here. As you will tell, I am not a presenter, so that's why I have nothing prepared. I'm just the guy that installs this stuff and makes it work.
Amen.
The history, as you can see in my bio there, my dad started this business, and I grew up in it. So when I was this high, I was with Dad doing everything. Of course, back then, sound systems, weren't much. You had a couple little speakers and a microphone and a tube amplifier, and you went out and you amplified the spoken word, and that was it. So things have really progressed since then. Today's age that we live in with the digital consoles and processors, the things we can do with sound systems are just amazing. And I've seen a lot of that come around. So the biggest thing is with the problems that churches have. So we're going to concentrate there. is churches, when you go to install systems, first of all, nobody really understands them. That's the biggest thing. You've got your goals. You know that you've got the spoken word. You want to be able to be heard, and get that message across without feedback, without buzzes and hums, any distractions. If you have distractions, you've lost your audience. So with that in mind there, so you've really got to concentrate on a good quality system to start with. So there's three major churches will usually install three major systems in their span of trying to come up with one that works. When you first build a building and you have your architect come in, and right away, you've sat down, you've engineered everything in the building, and they say, hey, we'll take care of the sound system. We're going to have a guy design it. So they design it, they go to bid, low bid gets the job, low bid puts it in, and they start it up, you work, the sound system is working. Next thing you know, acoustics are horrible, you can't understand what they're saying, you got hums and buzzes, just most people plugging different things in. So you're plagued with that as the first system that you put in. All right, second system, 2 years down the road, you go, okay, we've had enough of this. One of the guys in the congregation, his buddy is a DJ who works at a music store, and he's got a background in sound, so you think. So then they take and get him involved. He adds a whole lot more equipment, spend twice as much money, and then you sit there with the same problems. It doesn't work. It's feeding back, it's squealing, it's doing all kinds of things. And then if you're lucky, the third time around, you say, okay, this is it. We've got to get somebody in here that knows and understands it. That is usually, when things will change. You get a pro in, and the biggest problem there is who's the pro? Who do you trust? Because you've got contractors out there that are just interested in selling you gear.
Amen.
If you get a salesman in there, he's working on a commission. He wants to try to sell you gear. So the more he can sell, the more he makes. Not always the end case. Doesn't always work. So if you take, when you go looking for a contractor, the biggest thing is you need the support after the system is in. You just don't want somebody to come out and put a system in and leave. You still need that support. If you have a problem, you're not happy with the way it sounds, there's an issue with this microphone on the pulpit or the wireless or any of that kind of carrying on. So you've got to have a contractor that you can call up, and he'll be back out there and solve the problem. So when you start looking at a contractor, it's hard to pick out. You got to have that trust relationship. Like we have here, Chuck has a problem, he's on the phone, and one of us will come out and look at it and take care of the problem. But you want to start from the ground up. When you're looking at a contractor, you want him to come out, you want to sit down with him. He needs to understand what you want out of the system. You've got the pastor who needs a microphone, whether it's wireless, whether it's hardwired, however, but you got to understand what they want, and then it gets into the music ministry. So if you've got a lot of music involved in the church, then you got to know at the level. Is it just a guitar player and a singer? Is it a choir? Full orchestra? You've got all that. So now the system has to be able to support many aspects of the musical content as well as the speaking. Speakers have come a long way, it's placement, there's a lot of things that are involved. So you've got to get that contractor on ground floor. He needs to know what's going on. So when you go to a guy like that, most contractors worth their weight will come out, sit down, we'll go look at the venue. If it's a new church, sit down, look at all the plans, go through all this. He will design the system, but at that point, most of them are going to want to be compensated for their design. So you got to kind of be prepared to pay for the design. But if they're worth their weight, and what we generally do is, if you buy the system from us, we install it, that money comes right back. You know, we take that right off the top. Yeah.
I have a question, just real quick. Since you're talking about installers, what kinds of things should a church, a pastor, a church board look for in selecting a contractor? For instance, should they be licensed? Should they have insurance? Is there anything that the churches should be looking for to have some level of confidence for an installer?
That's a good question. And yeah, I'm trying to think myself there. There's really, I mean, there's certification in place. There's not really a license other than maybe you need a low voltage license to work within the state or county or city or however they determine that end of it. You don't really, you can look at all the credentials after somebody's name, and quite frankly, I don't have any of those credentials after my name. I have gone to all these classes, I've done all that stuff, but there is a level that you maintain, and you can see those levels behind a lot of people. That just means that they've gone through those classes, they understand it, hopefully. But I don't know that there is really a good way to say, hey, listen, they need to have X, Y, Z in place over here. Now, when it comes to hanging stuff, you know, you got to be able to have the proper tools to hang it, the rigging ability, because the last thing you want is anything to fall. So you got to have that liability. The best thing is look at your track record. If somebody's been in business for a long time, you should easily be able to get references and go back and get, you know, talk to some of the other jobs that they have done, and whether it's done professionally or not.
Right. That's one of the things that I tell the churches to do. If you have a contractor in your area that you're considering, you need to see and hear, and even hear if you can,
Absolutely.
their previous work from their customers.
Yep.
Because things on paper aren't necessarily going to come to fruition. It looks good, but that person needs to be able to demonstrate what they've done in the past, especially if it's a church that's very similar to the size that you have.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you go into this and you have a budget, and the best thing to do with your budget is double it, because at that point, whatever you thought is going to cover it, it usually doesn't. Equipment. When you go to buy equipment, you can get on the internet, you can search, you can find the best deal on Amazon, you can find, you know, the equipment you're looking for. There's a lot of difference in equipment. If you want something that's going to work, you need to buy the quality stuff. How do you know the quality stuff? That again is when you're going to have to get a professional in there, because there's ranges of speakers. We got JBL in here. You can go to a different manufacturer that may not work as well. There's no one manufacturer that has every piece: speaker, amplifier, microphones, mixers, processors. They all have them, but there's no one manufacturer, in my opinion, that you can go with. Say you go with a Harman product, which is JBL, Crown, Soundcraft, and you get all that. They want to sell you every piece that they have to do the job. When I come in and I look at a system, I'll go, I know that these speakers will work good in this room, but I don't want that mixer because that's not the mixer this job needs. It needs another brand. So when you start marrying those brands together to accomplish, in my opinion, an even better system than what that original manufacturer is sitting there saying that they have all the products that they need. They do, it will work, usually not as well as it should. So when you're looking at shopping, that kind of stuff, and microphones, you go buy a wireless microphone. You know, you look on the internet, hey, $200 I can buy a wireless microphone. You're gonna have problems. First of all, frequency overlaps, harmonic distortion. When you start adding microphones together, wireless stuff, you have all kinds of problems. So there again, you need to spend more money on that microphone. End result is going to be the fact that it works and it doesn't cut out, drop out, squeal, you know, all that stuff. Go ahead, Chuck.
You know, Bill, this was totally he doesn't know these questions.
Yeah, no.
We didn't practice. Okay? But this guy's so good, he can handle any question I give him. I want to ask you specifically when we talk about installation, and especially with speakers, what went into the design of the speaker system in this room? When you saw this structure, you know, we sat down with the blueprints and all that.
Yeah, yep.
And, you know, I talked about what we're planning to do in this building, the different things we're doing. When you saw the structure and you saw what we wanted to do, what got you to design this kind of system as opposed to the traditional 2 speakers on the wall, you know, speaker in the back and whatever? What do you think as a professional installer when you see a building like this? What makes you design what you have designed here?
Well, when you take a space like this where it's sort of a banquet facility, you can lay this room out any way you want it. You can have the head end down at that end and all. So if you have speakers at one end, right away you're going to be locked in to being here. If you turn around and go back there, you're going to have the delay of this sound coming to you, and everybody's facing that way. Your ears are looking that way. They're not back there. So in that case, I needed to go with a distributed system in here. So you want to cover the floor area evenly, so that you can go anywhere in the room with the microphone and present from any place. And then as well have, as the video, if you have video or any kind of music background, it's just going to be a lot more even dispersion in here. And choosing these speakers, the dispersion pattern of the speaker, that's 100 degrees conical all the way around. So it's got nice even dispersion. You can buy speakers at 60 degrees, 80 degrees, 100 degrees in different directions. So you got to know all that kind of carrying on going in.
The other part about this building is very unique. When Bill installed the system, he installed all of the wiring. So up front here, for those of you that can see, there's a plate up here, and this plate will receive and send audio, will receive and send video, and it has a data port. So you can hardwire a computer to this plate. This configuration is duplicated in the floor, in the middle of the floor. If you see where our control console is there, they're all plugged into the floor. You don't see a whole bunch of cables, except for the camera cables. But this configuration is in the floor, so that's another option. On the back wall is the same plate as this, so if you wanted to reverse the operation of your meeting, you could actually point in that direction and still have the same capability. So it's not all just sound, but how you want to configure your connectivity in your church or in your building. Because you know a lot of pastors are doing PowerPoint, and if you're not using a wireless system like an Apple TV, you need to have the right plugs down front. And oftentimes, a church will get built, and then it comes to them, you know, I can't even plug in my computer down here. Can we get an adapter? Can we get a whatever? And now you're coming in and drilling holes after the fact. So thought needs to go into connectivity as well as sound, because audio visuals is what it is. It's audio and visual. And a lot of times sound contractors can put in, you know, all types of other kind of cabling. I mean, Bill did here. He designed and installed these plates. And the other thing about our plates in the floor, you'll notice that they're flush. They're flat. They have doors. You open them up, you plug in. And the way we're set up here, we have our whole control cable over the plate. So we don't have to do a lot of, you know, extraneous cabling. But that takes sitting down with the contractor and going over all those details.
Yeah.
You know, every single detail. And that assessment is important too. Before you even invite a contractor in, you need to sit down with the staff of the church and the pastor and talk about what is it that we really want. You may not know the terminology, but the contractor that you're considering, or when you go to solicit one of the first things they're going to tell you, they're going to ask you, well, what do you want?
What do you need out of this?
What do you need out of this? So an assessment is very important, even when you're going to do an upgrade. Now, Bill, tell us about the upgrade process. Let's say a church has invested money, they have a sound system, it's not adequate, or it was cheap. You said at the beginning of your talk,
right.
You know, we always go for the low bid.
Yep.
You know, oh, that's our budget. And I try to, you know, encourage churches that if you want to install a new audiovisual system, and you only have $10,000 in your budget, and you get estimates for $20,000, maybe $30,000, I think it's best to raise the other $20,000 and get it done right, than to go with the guy that's going to give you a proposal for $9,999.
Right, because you're only going to spend that money twice. You're going to end up doing it twice, and you're going to waste money. That's the biggest thing there. Yeah.
So Bill has done some evaluations for some of our churches. He can even come in what's called a spectrogram. You can actually do a sound measurement.
Oh yeah, analyzers and stuff like that.
Right,
Yes.
and that's important. You should be able to ask the contractor, will you do an analysis of our building?
Oh, absolutely. You can come in and look at, if you have an existing system in place now, we can come out and look. There might be some pieces of equipment that you're using that is fine, and we can reuse them. Biggest thing is that I find when I go back into places and look at what has been installed is speaker location, number one, is usually wrong. You have to have gain before feedback. How loud can I make this microphone before it's going to squeak? So that speaker placement, you have to get your speakers in the right position, the right type of pattern. So usually speakers are the biggest problem that I find. It's just the wrong type. It might be a set of music speakers that work great for a DJ or work great for a band, but it's really not designed to cover the room that you're in. So that's the biggest thing. But you can definitely look at using amplifiers for the most part are basically okay. Biggest other big piece that you can get is a processor, a digital processor. And what that encompasses is everything else that you need. EQs, compression, limiters, delays, anything you can think of is in that processor. And it all can be designed for every space differently. So that's a huge, I just came from up in Massachusetts. I was up there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, got home last night at 10 o'clock. That was a horse show facility. So it's a huge, we've got 3 rings, a lot of stables, all that kind of stuff. They had speakers. This guy had stuff in place. The speakers were fine. Everything he had up was going to be good. But the head end, you walked into their office, and where their control center was, he had 4 or 5 of these tables like this set around, with a mixer on this one, an amplifier on that one, and cables just everywhere. So what we did is we went in, we put a rack in, put a processor in there. So these processors, and how long did we do this? How long has this been in?
It's been at least 10 years.
I was going to say 10, but the difference is in 10 years, the processors have changed so dramatically. This thing up there is all touchscreens. Everything they have is a touchscreen on the front of the rack, and they can swipe through pages, control volumes, mute stuff, zone it different areas. So, and then even their announcers have a little touch panel, not the size of your phone anymore. The touch panel sits there, and he can hit buttons to go to different rings. So that stuff is just tremendously improved. And one of those pieces like that in a church, you got automatic mixers in them, and it all depends on how the person who designs that processor layout. It can do anything you want. It even can control video with that stuff all doing.
Yeah.
There's a thing that goes on with our churches. It's not just our churches, but all churches. You have the AV guys in the church. You got the former, disco guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Did you right? Okay. And you've got so-called experts amongst members. I mean, if you really consider yourself an expert and you can prove that, I guess it's okay to engage that person to work on your church audio visuals. You're safer with a professional,
Yes.
but if you have a professional in your church, by all means,
Absolutely.
use them.
Yep.
There are some myths that I'd like to put out on the table in case you guys don't ask this question. There are churches or groups. Well, let me start with the church band. How many of your churches have church bands? They play every Sabbath. Raise your hand. You got a church band, right? Okay, so you're talking keyboards, guitar maybe, drums, or whatever. Now, my experience with church bands, they are special creatures.
Absolutely.
They just want to get in there and play. And sometimes they jam, and it's like, hey, we got a drum, and they're doing the thing, and the sound quality is terrible. And
Too loud.
Yeah, too loud. Or you hear just the drummer. You know there are other people playing up there, but you can't hear them. You know. So there's this myth about church bands. Church bands need special attention when it comes to all
They do. Yep.
And you'll have a leader of a church band say, oh, we need this, and this, you know. Sometimes that comes from, they visited the mega church down the street.
Yep.
That's got a $2 million audio-visual budget.
Yeah.
And they're looking at all that stuff and they go, yeah, we want one of those.
Oh, yeah.
And they go back to the pastor and say, hey, we saw so-and-so at the so-and-so church. And they'll say, oh, how much did that mixer cost? Oh, it's about $70,000. We don't have $70,000 for one piece of equipment. But you have this mindset that everybody wants to be like some of the smallest churches, Bill, can have great sound.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
But unfortunately, we have this idea that we want to be like T.D. Jakes. You know? Get all this stuff. And I've had to come to churches and pastors and board and talk to the people and say, yeah, our band wants us to have iPads that you can adjust the sound from the back of the church and do the thing. And we just don't have that kind of money. So the question is, do we really need that to get good sound in our church? And so there's this thing also about digital versus analog mixers.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I've had churches buy these expensive digital mixers thinking that somehow that digital mixer is going to make everything okay.
Yep.
So you put an expensive digital mixer out to some junky speakers.
Well,
That's not
Yeah.
going to work. There are no miracles there.
Now, you have to have all the right pieces in place. You do. Not just one piece is going to fix the problem.
I know that's right.
It really isn't. Yeah.
And some of our churches have been invested mistakenly with that. Yeah, Mike.
This is a band member, I can tell. No.
This is more of an encouragement. Like Chuck said, like Bill said up front, you know, we have to learn to think apples with apples. You know, you have to, if you want real stuff, you want quality stuff, sometimes it's going to cost. So like Chuck said, you got 10 grand and the system's going to cost you 20, save that money to get that 20. So that way you can get the quality stuff that you need. Because it doesn't make sense to spend God's money on a little bit of something here and then 5 years later, there's stuff that you done bought, you know, it done broke down, you know, it's not adequate for whatever it is that you need. So, you know, it's just best to just go on ahead and just do the right thing the right way. That's what we had to do at Mount Olivet. We had a concert a couple of years ago where Miss Kayla from 103.9 was our guest MC. Our system at the time was just horrible, just wasn't cutting. So, you know, our church kind of was embarrassed by the system that we had because the stuff sounded bad. So then the leadership was like, hey, not the pastor, but some of the people on the board was like, well, what do we need to do to fix this sound? So now we got to go on ahead and do what we have to do. So, you know, we had Phoenicia from Spinnacle come in, and she looked at our system and developed something for us, and everything has been good now. You know what I mean? So we're good, but you know, you just got to go ahead and spend the money. It cost us a pretty penny. We had to raise that money, but we did what we had to do. So now we're good.
Yeah.
Another myth I want you to address, and then we'll take more questions from everybody. I've gone to churches that have drum kits. The drummer. I mean, some of them are, you can tell by the way the drummer plays it with a cheap drum kit or a really professional one. And a professional drummer will know how to play the drums. However, you know, Bill has done, he's done shows for orchestras, he's done shows for big name groups, and so they do a sound check, you know, with the instruments. All the artists have to do a sound check before the show. I've gone to a lot of churches where they have a nice big drum set. And when the service starts, the praise team comes up and they get the mics and they start singing, and all you hear is the drum.
Yes.
What should a church do about it? Because the drummer's fun. Hey, I'm drumming, man. You you guys can't hear the rest of them, too bad, hey, I got my thing together. And the thing about it is that they'll say, oh, put me a monitor there so I can hear the piano. And they just drum and whatever, and folk in the audience, they're going to be Christians. And, it says, oh, praise Steve was good today. Yeah, but that drummer, that drummer, it just seemed to be loud. What can the church do if they have a live band in their sanctuary and they have a percussionist, a drummer there?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to go about this. First of all, they make a cage. And we've all seen the plexiglass, and that can help, definitely help, especially to an acoustic set. The other answer is go to a digital set where it's all amplified. There's no sound coming off of that drum kit. That works very well too. A lot of times you'll get a professional drummer and go, I don't like this. This doesn't sound, I want the acoustic, So, but with the plexiglass, you can put the plexiglass around. I've got one church that they got the plexiglass around them. They got the roof over them. They got a whole room built just for the drummer. And they mic everything, and then they have control of it. And also, that same church, because they had the same problem where, the guitar player sitting there and goes, I want to be loud. I'm the loudest guy here. Well, they've taken all that control away from them. They're amplifiers, and musicians, and if we got any here that you're going to know that, hey, my guitar amp, I like this guitar. This piece really sounds the way I want it to sound, but it has to be on 11, because that's the tone I'm looking for. So we've got all their amplifiers in another room. They have a room behind the stage area, and we put the amplifiers. We've got 2 guitar amps back there, and I believe now the bass is running direct. But we've got at least 2 amps back there. So there's mics on those amps back there in another room. So now they have really good control of the audio, the acoustic instruments, or the instruments coming off of the stage. So that gets, but the drummer's issue is a big one, because he's going to set the level for the show.
Yep.
Because if you got a drummer and he's sitting there playing loud, and a lot of drummers will play loud.
Yep.
And so now the rest of the musicians have to bring their level up, or the sound guy's going to sit there and bring those levels up to get an even mix. And by then you're chasing the congregation out of the room. They're leaving.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's another thing. There's another factor in sound in your church. It's called the dB level. If you notice, there have been certain policies and rules set for even big rock concerts.
Yep.
Your sound level cannot be above a certain level.
Amen.
Otherwise, you will cause damage to the ear.
Yes.
And some people don't realize their hearing is being damaged. They're listening, they're into the music, and the sound is hitting them. And then on the drive home, they're ringing in their ear, or someone is talking to them and they're saying, huh, what'd you say? Well, your hearing is getting damaged by a poor sound system in the church. I was doing a seminar once on sound for one group, and one of the members in the team said, I explained to them about dB levels and EQ and all of that. And she raised her hand, she said, oh, now I know why I have a headache. I said, I beg your pardon? She says, every time I come into the sanctuary and the band is playing and the praise team is singing and I'm sitting there and I'm getting a headache every week. She says she walks out into the lobby where you can't hear the full force of the sound and her headache goes away.
Amen.
Bad sound will affect your metabolism.
And
Bad sound will make a good sermon sound bad.
Yeah, and just like you said, the level of it, but also the frequency response of that speaker.
Yes.
So if there's been no EQ done to it, we're like, we'll come in, when we did this thing here, we come in with an analyzer, we set the microphones up all around here, and we're running pink noise through the system, which is a constant noise, and we go back to the computer and we're looking at what it's telling us on there going, hey, we got a real hot spot at 1,000 hertz, So, and that just adds, if you got a real hot spot there, that's just going to add to that frequency hurting your ears even more. But by tailoring all that down and making what I'm going to say a more flat response, definitely helps.
There is a science to this, and you need to understand it. I know a lot of terminology may be over your head. The point is not to really know that terminology. The point is you need to know There's more to putting in a sound system than just buying the speakers on sale and getting some wire and hooking them up.
Amen.
In a house of worship,
Amen.
the sound system really does need to be put in
Amen.
perfectly. Because a lot is predicated upon what people are hearing.
Yes.
If you have a loud band, if you've got, I've had people say, I've done a concert one time, Bill, and this group comes and they bring their own mics.
Uh-huh.
So these are our mics, we use our mics to do this because they sound good.
I don't think
What sense does that make? You're going to plug your mic into my cable, and you're going to say it sounds better than the mic that's
his
there.
house.
I've had people believe that.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? And just to let this group know that no, I could have flat out said no, but I said, you know what? We're going to have fun. I told my sound guy, I said, yeah, plug in their mics, change the EQ.
Yeah.
And they got up to do their sound check and they said, oh, you sound terrible. They never sound like that.
Now try mine.
Yeah, right. So what we did, we played a little trick on them. We changed the EQ on the board, and so, the mic, we purposely made the mic sound bad. So they learned something. It's not the mic so much. It's important to have good mics. But who has the ultimate control?
Yeah, it's that guy
Tech on the board.
Yeah.
So he can make a good mic sound bad and bad mic
Amen.
sound good, and he can make a good singer sound bad and vice versa.
Bad
Well, to
sounds
some
good.
extent.
Yeah, there's a limit there.
If you sing off key, there's no
There's no
mic
limit.
except, yeah. So we're going to take some questions if you have any. Yes.
I think as far as like my church, the main issue is we don't know what to get, so we're scared to go ahead and do it. But the assumption you're saying is if you have a good contractor and you tell them what you want, they should be able, after assessing the room, know what you need. And does that also include like electrician? Do they provide like, is it a whole service that they provide, or is it just equipment?
Yeah, an audio contractor will come in. Generally, they won't do the electrical work, but they should do everything else, running all the low voltage wiring, the microphone cables, any video wires, any of that kind of stuff like we did here. And hanging the speakers, they'll do all that and make the system work, and should sit down with you guys and go over and say, hey, this is, is this sounding, are you happy with what you're hearing? After a service or two, obviously. But if there's electrical work to be done, most audio contractors don't have in-house electricians, because now they're licensed. They have to be certified to do all that kind of work. And they definitely have access to them. Because in my case, I'll just get an electrical contractor if I know we need an outlet or something. Or if you have an electrical contractor that you work with, they can do it. So when it comes to the electrical end of it, we sort of bow out of that. But on another thing is, I do know that there are a lot of contractors out there that are, and I don't know how to classify them, but what they'll do is they won't do any of the wiring. They're going to come in, they're going to lay your system out. They're going to say, we're going to say these speakers, this, and this, and this, and this. Now you got to get somebody else to come in and wire it. They'll come back and hook it all up. I don't agree with that concept. That's why we do everything ourselves, except for electrical. We'll wire it all. That way, if there's a mistake, that speaker's out of phase from that speaker, that's on me. I don't have to get a third party back in to go, hey, fix your problem. So.
Yeah, and just on that question, just another key point. I've had to deal with a major church in our conference that was doing a renovation. They got a contractor to do the renovation, and the construction contractor said, oh, we got an audio guy that can, install your speakers and update, okay. And what we found out was that the building contractor who got the audio guy wasn't professional. And so I was called down and they said, oh, Chuck, can you come down and look at this? So I went down, Bill, you're gonna laugh. When I went down, I looked at the speaker wires, and it was done with bell wire. They wired up telephones with?
Yeah.
When I saw that immediately, I said, okay, this is someone that just got over on this church. So I asked the pastor, I said, who did this? Oh, the building contractor brought in a guy. And they said, well, where is he? I said, I don't know. You be careful. If you want specific type of audiovisual installed in your church, get an audiovisual professional who can provide that for you. These guys that people end up with are just trying to make a buck.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're doing.
You get those general contractors like that, they will, it's their buddy, it's somebody they know, they're getting something kicked back. But the thing is, meet with them. I mean, I'm not saying, sometimes, I work for general contractors as well, but I gotta sell myself to them as well. I gotta go in and say, hey, this is what I've done, this is what I can do, and I'm gonna stand behind it. So there's a lot of that that's out there.
Speak right into it.
Yes. First question, when are you available to come to our church? And I guess my question is kind of for the conference, is there a way we can establish a team, or is there a team already established that can come out and help the churches? I mean, meet with the people, because it's a hobby. We doing our best that we can do, reading as much as we can read, listening, but that's not my profession. But I know if I hear a hum or squeak, that's not good.
Right. Well, to answer your first question, the media department does provide workshops and seminars. We come out and we can spend, my seminar for audio visuals is between 8 and 10 hours, so we don't do it on one shot. And we talk about audio operation. We have a lot of churches that will buy equipment. It's installed, and the installer doesn't train them. They don't know what to do with it. We had one of our churches in the New Jersey area, trying to get her attention, in the New Jersey area, that the church invested in a digital board. And I remember, can I say, all right, Mita called me and she said, Charles, can you come to our church because we got this really nice digital board? She said, but we don't know what to do with it. It looks pretty. When we turn it on, all the lights are flashing and things. So there are situations like that. It was a nice digital board, but whoever gifted it to them or gave it to them gave them no idea of how to run it.
That's a problem.
Yeah, right. But to answer your question, yeah, we can come out, and then if it's an installation or an evaluation needed, we'll call guys like Bill to come out, or if it's far away like Virginia, because I know Bill has a radius. I mean, you can bring Southwest Bell, you can handle it. So if you're in West Virginia, I mean, he'll come, but it's not going to be for car fare, What's your radius?
My radius is pretty big.
Yeah, right.
I was just in Mass, yeah, so, no, I generally don't. I just come out and take a look, and give you some ideas, that kind of thing. But then if I'm going to sit down and design a system, and I can give you ballpark numbers or estimates, that kind of thing.
We have that Behringer X32, that big digital.
That X32, yeah.
And nobody knows how to work.
Yeah, actually, for the money, that's a good console. It is a good console for the money. I like that. It does a lot more than some of the others do for a lot less. But knowing how to run it is the big. Do you have somebody? Do you have a dedicated person every Sunday that's there or every service?
Me and the first elder.
Okay.
One that really knows how to
Yeah.
get to a certain point, but we still are not equipped on that.
Yeah.
Much power.
Yeah. You gotta understand it.
Okay, this is two questions. One is for Chuck and one is for you, Bill. Okay, for Chuck, is there any mechanism that you guys have up here where in any of our churches, if they are talking to a contractor, the contractor comes in and give them some information, it probably would be wise to maybe set up some sort of protocol to where the local church can say, okay, hey Chuck, this is what they're proposing to us. What do you think about this? That's the, and so forth and so on.
Yes, I do it, and I do it all the time. And a lot of times I've saved churches a lot of money. And I'm not flag waving. But I know enough about the business. I don't know nearly as much as Bill does. Because Bill can look at statistics and talk to that end. But I've seen a lot of proposals and budgets that were padded unnecessarily. There was one church who, we go nameless. Pastor asked me to come. He said, look at this proposal. And I looked at the proposal based on what they had. And I said, well, first of all, you can cut this budget in half and still get done what you want to get done. There is a problem with some people that say, oh, you know, our mixer is 10 years old, it's time to get a new one. Does it work? Yes, it's fine. So what do you need to get a new one for? Well, it's been 10 years. Okay. Did something magical happen in 10 years? You know, so someone will come in and say, oh, that's an old model, you need an upgrade. And if you don't know, you don't know. So this one church, they were about to spend $30,000. I said, you don't need to spend that because my evaluation was a lot of their components were still good, but they still needed some upgrades. I said, go back to your contractor, tell them that we'd like to have this package versus this package, and they ended up spending half of as much, and they got what they needed. So, yes, we can come and do an evaluation, give our opinion on something. Let me say how this thing, and we're going to have to wrap up soon, but let me tell you how this thing has worked. There was a very large church that was doing a big construction, and the pastor said, hey, can you come down and work with the contractors and look at the proposal for the sound system and all? And they were about to spend $250,000. And when I looked at it, I said, well, I'm of the opinion you don't need to spend that kind of money because you don't need this, and this, okay? I knew enough about how this was going to happen. Well, I'll tell you, the audio contractor was in that meeting, and he got really ticked off. You know, all right? But they ended up spending half as much and got more than they needed to do the church. So those kind of situations happen. I'll be happy to look, and you can say, well, we got a guy at the conference, he kind of looks over our proposals and whatever. And if it's above my head, I'm calling Bill. And Bill will look at it and go, that's good and that's not good. Okay? So that's the answer to that question.
Okay, and for you, Bill, for your expertise and your service for what it is that you offer, this is another important piece because when our churches get all of our packages in, when you finally get your new sound system in, one of the key things that's really important, we actually have this, we have a quarterly training with Spinnaker. Okay, so we've learned stuff on our digital board, you know, we learned how to operate it, the basic, you know, operation to do stuff. But they come in and they continuously train us to, okay, now this is the next phase of what you can do with this system. So that's an important piece because you can get all this great stuff, but if they don't teach you how to use it, what are we doing here?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So that's something I'm pretty sure that you offer.
Yeah, definitely, we definitely do. After we put a system in, I mean, we definitely train your people on it, and it's a lot to soak up. I mean, you're just not going to learn in 2 hours and be a genius to run this console. So, yes, in answer to that, yeah, we definitely offer that. We go back many times again and again for training sessions.
Yeah.
And it's just, it maybe just during a rehearsal or just the one-on-one with the guys going, hey, let's grab a microphone, this is how this works on this channel, this is how this, you can do this, this, and this. But yeah, we definitely come back to do those services.
Well, I want to thank Bill. You got through it.
I did. He told me I had 50 minutes. I'm going, holy crap, what am I going to talk about in 50 minutes?
When I asked Bill to be a speaker, he says, I've never done this stuff before. What am I supposed to do?
He said, what's your PowerPoint? I said, PowerPoint? I just drove 8 hours just to get here.
No, but Bill's a great guy, top professional in this field. Use him. If you know, I can refer you to him. You know, we'll have information that if you want to contact him, you can come up to your church. And this is not a way to build business for Bill. Trust me, Bill has
I'm busy.
so much business. It's not that he's here to try to, you know, do that. Because he does high schools, he does college, so much stuff. But anyway, feel free. He's available via Allegheny's conference. We vouch for him 1,000%. So whatever he says, it's like gold. Okay? Let's give Bill a hand again and thank you very much.
Thank you. The hostess.
Thank you as well. Thanks from me as well. Okay, everyone. Did you have a question? You're stretching.
Bill didn't answer the question.
No, he did. I got it. Yes, I noticed that. Charles was supposed to ask you to answer one of our.
I'm not used to this. All the presenters are asked a question. And you had a random question.
This will be good.
Yeah. Here you go. Read that.
Who's your go-to band or artist when you can't decide on something to listen to? Wow. From a guy that has worked with a lot of bands. Go-to band. Oh, I'm a country fan, so I listen to a lot of country music. I don't know. I want to say Garth Brooks. Just I've done his shows. Yeah. His messages are usually good, so.
Thank you. Thanks for making sure we send him through the process. Okay, so we are going to take just a moment to transition for our next presenter, who is Ricardo Bacchus. Now, Ricardo is my deadline guy. You guys have people who are always giving you deadlines for different things? So, Ricardo has to give me my deadlines every month to submit articles to the visitor. But he's a pleasant deadline giver. So when you miss your deadlines, he doesn't yell at you or anything like that. He just sends you friendly reminders. And he's always understanding when you're a week or so late. So I wanted to preface it by saying, when you all send us articles, some of you send us articles pretty regularly. And sometimes I'm asking you questions. Usually they're coming from Ricardo, who's asking me to come back to you with certain things. So we appreciate the partnership we have with the Visitor Magazine. And some of our churches, we're not hearing from you to be able to submit articles for the Visitor. I see you're doing a lot of things. Southwest is really good. I have to give you guys a shout out because you do submit a lot of articles. Yes. And so we want to encourage some of our other churches, even if you're not writing a complete article, if you have an idea of something that you've done, sometimes I'll do a Q&A with you, and from that I can develop an article based on innovative things. As I always say, we've done the church anniversary thing for a while. Not that it's not significant. We celebrate with you. But as a readership, sometimes, and we even had to have a little timeout on STEM articles, right?
Yeah.
We were getting, since STEM is such a big thing, a lot of our schools, even our churches were having STEM programs, and suddenly our readership started to say, we've heard enough about STEM. So a lot of you are doing innovative ministry. We really want you to start submitting articles for that type of thing. Okay, are you? Maybe some assistance. It's connected, but.
Should this be me connecting it and DC?
That's hard work. Somebody lean with your back. It's hard work. That's good. I think you were tested. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. We're not doing that. You know what I'm talking about.
Okay. So yeah, while we're waiting for that adapter, we're going to go ahead and ask Ricardo his question.
I guess we have another 50 presenters.
Just keep it going. Keep the spots going from year to year. Just realized you're not mic'd. You want
Great, but I came up.
Okay, so let me read the question, and I'll give you the mic to answer. What's something you've been meaning to try but haven't gotten around to it?
Yeah, okay. So, skydiving, right? I don't want to do skydiving, but I want to go to that like indoor thing where you can skydive within a. Is it iFly? Has anyone done that? Not yet. Oh, you too. You're still alive. All right, good. So. Yeah.
They train you before you.
Oh, they train you?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one about 45 minutes from where I live, and that's definitely something I want to try out before I do the real thing. Yeah. All right.
All right, this is our last presentation before lunch. And after your questions for Ricardo, we're going to take our group picture, which we probably will do up here since it's raining today. And then we'll take a break for lunch.
Yeah, sure.
Also, just a quick reminder, your evaluation forms, when you're done with those, we can take them at the back or here.
Hello. Is that good? Can you hear me? Any feedback? we lose our audience, right? Okay. Is it good? All right. So writing stories people read. I'm going to read 2 paragraphs. You tell me which one would intrigue you more than the other. I don't think your son's going to make it, said the chaplain at Johns Hopkins Hospital to my parents. It's not looking good. Or, in this article, I will talk about how a son had a rough time at a hospital. The second one? Are you serious now?
The first one sounds more.
Okay. The first one kind of draws you in, right? It's a quote. It leaves you on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The other one is like, why are you even saying? You know that this is an article. Why are you even stating that to start with? So, as you know, I work for the Visitor magazine, and Latasha always meets her deadlines. She's one, I'm serious, I work with about 16 other correspondents, and she's one of the first ones that gets it to me on time, and I thank you, Latasha, and you know that you do a wonderful job, and that all starts with you guys right here. So we live in what I call a fast food society, where everything, you know what we learned yesterday, Phil was saying it's an 8-second type of society. I'd say when you look at a title and read a title, it takes what, 1 second, 2 seconds, and you're on to the next one. If you don't like McDonald's, that McMuffin, you go to Burger King.
Yeah.
You know, you're if you don't like that photo, if it's not attractive, if it looks outdated, if it's pixelated, you go to some different article, whether it's online or in a magazine. And if that first paragraph doesn't draw you in, if a caption doesn't draw you in, if a title, you know, those titles that Andrew on his videos, excellent. They bring you in, it's clickbait. That's the exact words that I use. So, I wanted to share, let's see, we have about a half hour. Let's get to it here. Standards for quality ethical journalism. Anytime that I'm talking here, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me, and I'll continue going. No. So the first, yeah. Option, yeah. This way. So standards for quality ethical journalism. Number one, thank you. Strong, well thought out content. Now that is basically self-explanatory. You want something that you've researched, something that you've done some work behind the scenes to get your content. I really like what Latasha was saying. Like, it doesn't always have to be, like we've said, perfect, yes. But as an editor, nothing that comes to me is perfect, nor is my editing perfect. There's still, after 7 people have seen it twice, there'll still be that one little typo. And we're like, as long as we're 99.99, you know, and try to be perfect, aim for that. That's what we strive to be our best, of course. So strong, well thought out content. Number 2, current events, breaking news. I love breaking news. When I turn to CNN, I don't know why, but I always want breaking news. And most of it usually is anyway. I know it's mostly like a disaster or something like that, and that's not, like, but it's something that intrigues me. And when we put something up in the visitor, like so-and-so, you know, just accepted this position, or sadly to say so-and-so passed away, that is breaking news. That's something that we want to get out there fast. Headlines, photos, as I've said, captions that draw the readers in. Diversified communication channels. What that means is, at the visitor, we have, you know, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. My coworker, Michelle Bernard, takes care of that. And I'm more the magazine. But different ways to get the word out is very important. And fact check and verified info. The worst thing that we can do, I say, is when I print a church name or a person's name incorrectly. You know your members, and let's say there's that E that should have been an A, and then she reads it and it's wrong. What we have to do many times is go back the next issue and say a little correction error, you know, sorry, our apologies, this should have been spelled this, or this should have been, this was her degree, not this. So please fact check your work. I, to an extent, do it if I know someone that's more or less known, or I know that, well, Oakwood is not in Tennessee, that's Southern. I kind of know, you know, the basics there, but it starts with you getting your members right, and as far as also when you caption them, correct titles, correct, if they're students, correct ages, grades, you name it. Okay, the who, what, when, where, and why, or how. So, let's say we're writing an article, right? So, for families. And maybe it's a family ministries event coming up. So that's your who in the story. What is the family ministries event? What are you going to talk about? Let's say that the when, did this event already take place? Let's say it did take place. So what are you going to write in your story to tell us about when or where it took place? Because if you don't have these facts, these basic facts, and just say that there was an event, people don't have the context around it. Okay, so there's events, so then what next? It was right here at Pine Forge. What was done there? Do you have a quote? Quotes are very important. If you don't have a quote in an article, it's pretty bland. Because a quote tells you why something was done, how it was done. It tells you someone's experience. It gives a lot of times they're able to just show what that meant to them for to attend. These are the basics of developing a story, and I've given let me show you a couple of examples that just came out in the April issue. So who's from the Ebenezer Church? Okay, so did any of you submit this to Latasha? Yeah, it's in there. It's in the April issue. I don't know, someone must have, unless Latasha found out or some way or another. But let's look for the who, what. Okay, who are we talking about? Okay, and what do we know about him? If you didn't know anything about this story, about him, and you just saw that title, would that make you want to click it maybe? Composer, musician. It's not just saying Ebenezer member passes. We're saying much more than that. We want, and then if you look at the, in the meat of it, and in the caption, look at this. He has 4 hymns in the Seventh-day Adventist hymnal. So okay, we have. Do we have anything about where, or we have where the church is located? Correct. And then we have a background, a history of who he married. You see a quote in there. You see who he's left behind. And again, captions are very important. Now, photos are as well. We like to see ourselves in the visitor. Before working at the visitor, I worked with the General Conference, and I always like to flip through the visitor when I got in the mail to see, not if I was in it, because I never was, but to see who I knew. And I would count with my parents. I'd be like, that's 1, 2, I know 7 people. And that just got me excited. Most photos, this one wasn't necessarily, because this was an old photo of him, I believe. Yep. But most photos that Latasha and the other correspondents send my way, I asked for them to be high resolution photos. Now, an iPhone can only do so much. An iPhone is great, but we typically look for a high quality camera that can take high quality pictures. And I don't know if in your communication departments you have such a camera, like an SLR or something like that, because sometimes the lighting isn't just right on an iPhone, or it's so much cleaner and sharper. So a picture can tell 1,000 words. Let me show you this next slide here. Who's from the Mount Olivet Church? Okay, and this was, if I just read that title, Church Opens Doors During Freezing Temperatures, I want to know, you remember that week or two where it was so cold? Well, this group of members and these 2 ladies and a bunch of others, went out and donated to the homeless. But the photo's great. They sent me, Latasha might have sent me about 10 pictures or something. It's my job and my graphic designer to choose. And then we asked Latasha to provide a caption, because I have no idea who these 2 ladies are unless she tells me. So, okay, so who are we talking about? Or what church? It says it. Why are we even talking about this? Why? You speak up. You yell it out. Okay, they're providing assistance during the cold streak. Who have we interviewed? Yeah, a member. It's great to get a member. It's great to get a pastor, but it's great to get the members, young adults, different people rather than always the pastor. So we have like, I believe, 3 different members. Not even the pastor said anything in this article. He disapproved it. He disapproved it.
The pastor is here. Yeah, he's here. The pastor
Is he here?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. This was great. And see what happened with this, we heard about it through Latasha, and I quickly wrote up a little story that was a little different than this, and we posted it right away because it was breaking news. So we posted it in my e-newsletter, and online, and then not everyone sees that, so then she wrote a 250 word, basically, word count, and described more of what happened, provided a photo, and placed it in a different, channel to get the word out. That's the thing with our magazine, of course, and any publication that's print, it's going to be a little bit outdated by 2 to 4 weeks. So we try to get everything that's breaking, and I encourage this if you have news that you want to report in your churches, to get that out quickly. And if you have a newsletter later on or something like that, you can also put the same story in there, because you have different readerships that view different things. 250 words. Who's that? Okay. 250 words generally for the visitor is kind of the max for a story. Am I saying that right, Natasha?
200 to 250.
Yes. So, in other words, those 2 articles, that one and that was 1 page on 1 page. So that was about 250 with 1 photo caption. Same with that. Now, if you want a full spread, it's about 450 words and maybe 2 photos and 2 captions. This is if you want to, the entire page. And Allegheny East and all the conferences, we have 8 conferences under the Club Union, all have 2 pages, front and back. And then we have 8 academies that also write, and they have 1 page. So Pine Forge also has their own. And they do a really good job. With Jamie Pottinger is editor there. This year he started as editor. Okay, how to create a must-read e-newsletter. Who does an e-newsletter at their church? Electronic email. Really, nobody? This is extremely important because it connects the membership of the church during the week. You see each other at church, and you might miss the announcement part, because you came in late. You might not know, someone said that they sing happy birthday, or they not sing, but they announce the different birthdays of the week that just passed. This is a great way to announce the different things that are happening within the week, not just in the bulletin, but you're getting something electronically. So I really recommend this. The visitor, I send one out every Thursday. And here is, yes, my plug. If you go to that site right now, and do I have the first figure? Oh, it's going to show big. Did you see it for a second? Oh, go back? Okay. Okay, well, a must-read e-newsletter. I'm going to share just 3 things. Number 1, develop a content calendar for upcoming events or newsletters. So the number 1 thing when focusing on an article or e-newsletter is being organized, pretty much. having your calendar out, knowing when events are coming up to promote them, knowing who needs to be at an event to capture a photo or write a story, and then to report the story, how it went. Use photos strategically and bountifully, I've already discussed that. Adapt your strategy for maximum impact. There's strategy that goes into this. It's great that a lot of you are just not one person in your community communication team. If there's 2 or 3 of you, tell one person, this is your duty. You're to write articles. You're supposed to send articles, not just for the visitor, but this could be different places too. Adverse Review, different sources. They're needing good content. Get Allegheny East News out there. You're doing wonderful, amazing things, but we don't know about it if you don't share it. Yes?
Which platform do you suggest to push out these newsletters?
Okay, the most common ones are MailChimp and Constant Contact. Those are the most, I believe, popular ones. We actually use one called Emma, E-M-M-A, and I can show you what that looks like. It comes. It's really big there, but so this was was this yesterday? I think I was working when you guys were talking. But this is the new associate director that just has come to our department at the Columbia Union. You see there's ads that we place on the right side, and these are paid advertisers. And you got the photo, you got the read more. This is just an example of the one I just did yesterday. I try to be fair with every conference, and put something little about each conference, if not on the top half. And this is Campbell Haven is Ohio. We got Pine Forge here. Yeah. Okay. So the question is, am I interested in human interest stories, colleges, different young adults who are doing things? Yes, definitely, yes. We want to see what the young adults are doing. We want to cover every aspect of your church, from birth to death. What's happening? So this right here, we did a calendar for 2019. We had about, I want to say over 100 submissions of young kids who ages 5 through 15 who illustrated, and 12 or 14 actually made our calendar, made it in our print calendar. I wish I don't have one with me. And these are the other ones that every single week I'm posting, so that we're going to try to get through all of them one way or another, so that everyone who submitted we're sharing their material. Okay. So how to find great stories. How do I get back here? Does anyone have any questions right now? How to find great stories. Since I've been here, I've talked to about, 5 or 6 of you in 5 or 6 different churches, and I've been listening to what you've been saying. And I've been asking you some questions, right? For those who've talked with me. And I've been looking around and seeing, can we do a story about even this sound system? This amazing thing that was put together here. So conversing, talking to your members, talking to different people, talking to visitors, just chatting with them, listening to them, getting to know them. They'll say something that sparks your interest and say, oh, maybe we could turn this into a story. Maybe we can just turn this into a quote and put that in your e-newsletter. Maybe there's like a kid that's the cutest and you do photo of the week or something, the cutest girl or boy dressed so nicely. and you just want to put that up there. Again, we have to think about copyright issues, but and I can talk to you more about that how we do it with the visitor. But you also have the gentleman from yesterday who's more worthy than I am to address that. But there's many, many ideas out here. Okay, so these right here are my top 10 that I look for when I am trying to put stories together. Number 1, spotlight a ministry department. 2, spotlight a member, teacher, or student. 3, focus on a theme. Let's say for the next 3 articles, you want to focus on prayer or different aspects of prayer. That's a theme right there. We're always looking for nice editorials, and that's editorial / first person articles about something that's happened in their lives or something that's more theological as far as editorials, sometimes coming from your president, a pastor, or it could just be a member. Someone that has something they'd like to say, something that they'd like to share in their heart, from their heart. Reports on trends. We had a feature on the opioid crisis. I believe one lady has the magazine. You have some different magazines there from the visitor. We've done things about refugees and how the Columbia Union is helping them. Those are just different trends and different things that are going on. Spotlight conference entities, ask the question of the month, a recap of a certain events, set up great stories, meaning pre-write a story. Let's say something's coming up and you know the details. You already know the who, what, why, when, where, and how. You already know that. So you already wrote half of your story. Now you're coming in, filling in the details, and you're getting the quotes, you're getting more material, and you're packaging. But it starts with setting it up, preparing for it. And that same goes with anticipate, times 3. I'd like to share this with you. I have a twin brother named Bernardo, and that is not true, but let's see here. Sorry, guys. I think what it is the settings. Plug it into where?
Your earphone jack, there's an audio cable right there. Just plug it into your headphones.
To get the audio?
Yeah. Just go ahead and plug it.
Yeah, I'm more of a writer editor, so I don't know this techie stuff.
Whatever earphone jack you have, just plug that cable into it. That'll take your audio.
He may not have an audio plug because some of the saying you don't have it. Some of the new ones, you know.
All right,
The new Macs don't
how do I
have
get the
audio.
screen here?
Audio things.
Fit the size.
Don't know, man.
The dimension. Yeah, that's
I
right.
know that some of
Once I start playing it,
some of the PCs have done it, but what they do is they have like a double blind box that plugs in, reads up, and then
I don't-
you blink. You know how. But you gotta watch it because if something come out real quick, you just got to know what it is. You mess with it.
so I suggest to test things out before you present.
May I minus?
Huh.
You just want to be able to understand full screen icon.
And just scroll over. Yeah, but it's over here. believe it or not, I am the director for AV at Bellsville Church. When they found out that I worked for the communication department 2 years ago, they were like, I must know what I'm doing. And I pretended, and I'm still pretending. And we live stream, and I just do a lot of praying. All right, thank you. I'd like to share 12 copy editing tips that you likely already know, but need to commit to memory. Whether you're editing a conference newsletter, a church e-newsletter, a school email blast, or an online editorial, follow these tips for a more polished product. Tip number 1, inanimate objects can't perform functions. Each table was anointed up front. Really? The preacher was on fire. Ouch. I also recommend to not use the word literally. Many phrases are just a figure of speech, so be careful. Number 2, use active voice rather than passive voice. Wrong. Tamara Horse was asked by Heidi Shoemaker to speak at her women's event. Right. Heidi Shoemaker asked Tamara Horse to speak at her women's event. A sentence should have 3 parts, written in a subject, verb, object order. In this case, Heidi is the subject, asked is the verb, and Tamara is the object. Number 3, 3 ways to use commas. After states. CamCon Conference is located in Stanton, Virginia, comma, about 3 hours outside Washington, D.C. Number 2, when 2 complete sentences surround a conjunction, like and, but, or, yet. Jim Green and his wife recently celebrated 50 years of marriage, comma, and he loves to share the secrets of a successful marriage. And number 3, after an opening phrase that answers when, in 3 or more words. Wrong. In May, comma, the Hillcrest Church will host a youth rally. Right. During the church service, comma, the choir sang as a number of hymns. There are other places in which commas are appropriate, but these 3 are important to look out for. Tip number 4, don't date your story. Plan ahead and time your article to run before or after an event. Use the words recently or last month. Avoid using really old news. Anticipate when the issue will actually be read. Running a summer camp story in November would be a hot mess. Number 5, ask for the pedigree. And we're not talking dog food here. Proper ways to credit the educated. PhD, D-Min, MD. Wrong. Dr. Michelle Stevenson. Is she really a doctor? What kind? Right, Michelle Stevenson, D-Min. And also right, Michelle Stevenson, who holds a doctorate in ministry. Don't use Mr., Mrs., Elder, Deacon, just members' first and last names. Use proper titles for pastors or presidents, like Ron Halverson serves as president of the Ohio Conference, and Lisa Reed, senior pastor of Allegheny East Conference's First Church in Washington, D.C., presented a message titled, All in a Day's Work. Number 6, headlines. Would that headline draw you in? For news stories, put a verb in your headline. Wrong. 18 baptisms at Hagerstown Church. Right. Hagerstown Church celebrates 18 new baptisms. For editorials and first-person articles, no verb is necessary. Be creative and consider them as teasers. Examples, there's room for everyone to serve. The rescue story. I am the best copy editor. Oh wait, I forgot to delete that one. That was for me. Number 7, location, location, location. Every entity mentioned must include a city and state. West Wilmington, in parentheses, Delaware Church. Ethne Temple in Dayton, Ohio. Beltsville Adventist School, in parentheses, Maryland. Lake Nelson Adventist Academy in Piscataway, New Jersey. Don't you just love saying Piscataway? Say it 3 times fast, and remember to spell it 1 time correctly. Number 8, use words properly or look them up. For example, who and whom, affect and effect, to, there, peaked, peaked. This has piqued my interest. Number 9, what version is that? When you quote scripture, here's the proper way to identify it. When you quote Ellen White, here's the proper way to identify it. Number 10, refer correctly to official ministries of the church. Women's ministries, children's ministries, youth ministries. A wrong way of saying it is the family life leader announced. The correct way, the family ministries leader announced. Number 11, write captions in the present tense. Kelly Lee, pastor of the Ohio Korean Church in Cleveland, presents Celeste Kim, Children's Ministries Director, with an award. I know you don't see a photo, but just picture it. This is a caption. Plus, Kelly and Celeste are made-up people anyway. And last but not least, number 12, use state abbreviations. Remember that state abbreviations are different than postal codes. You got Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Jersey, Virginia, Delaware, DC. So that's all 12. For more advice, I recommend 5 books to further improve your editing skills. The AP Style Book, Webster's New World College Dictionary, 5th edition, the Chicago Manual of Style, Painless Grammar, my personal favorite book, and the Review and Herald Style Manual. My last bonus and best tip, pray before, during, and after you edit. May God bless you, and may your articles catch fire. Figuratively. Why did you need me here when I could have just given this to Latasha? No, but I wanted to come here and share a little more than a 5-minute video. Yeah.
Yeah, you're asking where you can get the videos?
Yeah.
Okay, someone else just asked me that. Ricardo, can you share a little bit about that whole series?
Yeah. So that is the actual, I don't know, that video is right there. I can send you, everyone should have my business card.
Nope.
No? Well, half of you should. It's Ricardo Bacchus. It was with the, I'll give you my business card, and then I can send you the series. So during Society of Adventist Communicators this past October, there were 9 of us, Latasha was one of them, that got together and basically spoke on different subjects of our expertise. Most of you should have gotten a handbook as well, and if not, I'll give it to you afterwards. This is our handbook, and basically a lot of what I've said today you can find in this handbook, plus many other things. What's that?
Page 32 and 33.
All right, page 32 and 33. He says. Okay, I'm gonna finish up, and hopefully this works, and then I'll take questions. Okay, I'm just going to read this. So I started off with 2 different paragraphs, one that most of you liked, one that didn't. And this was my editorial, and this is my story, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called An Answered Prayer. I don't think your son's going to make it, said the chaplain at Johns Hopkins Hospital to my parents. It's not looking good. On April 4, 2009, during post-operative care for ulcerative colitis, something went terribly wrong. My left lung collapsed. I stopped breathing and fell into a coma. Code Blue was set in motion as nurses hooked me to every resuscitation device available. Conventional wisdom pointed to a young man's death, and it was the chaplain's duty to break the heart-wrenching news to my parents. But my mother and father weren't finished with me yet. They set Code God in motion. On their knees, they cried out for him to save my life. My sister and brother-in-law also prayed earnestly. 2,000 miles away, my cousin started a prayer chain with friends and family members, pleading for God to do the impossible. And the impossible happened. I woke up to a screaming nurse yelling my name. My parents' tears of sadness transformed into tears of joy. My mom kissed my forehead and said, "You're my little Lazarus." 10 years later, I have an unbelievable wife, an adorable 4-year-old, an amazing job, and a cozy home. But I wish I could say my life is as perfect as my Facebook posts. But I'd be lying. God hasn't answered all of my prayers. Like, why did my grandfather die a year after my miracle? I prayed, didn't I? And why hasn't God yet healed my friend's dad who has stage 4 cancer? Do I need to dirty my knees more for him to respond? I mean, sometimes I find it hard to relate to my favorite passage of scripture. God is my refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. However, it's the times I doubt God when he reminds me to trust and praise him always, because his promises are like the ever-present sun in the sky, even when all I see are dark curtains of gray clouds. The story of Job is one example in which he lost nearly everything that was near and dear to him, yet managed to exclaim, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Even if God doesn't react to my prayers, or yours, exactly how I want him to, doesn't mean heaven is too far for my Wi-Fi to reach him. In his own time, in his own way, he repeatedly responds. I'll admit, sometimes I get angry when God seems to avoid my plea for help. But it's at that moment, when I've forgotten what God has done for me in the past, that my son comes up to me, points to my scar, and asks, "What is that, Daddy?" And I simply say, "An answered prayer." That's my contact info. The number one thing I want you guys to do is sign up for the B&B, which is our visitor news bulletin. It's the e-newsletter that comes out every week on Thursday. That's what I was talking about earlier. I try to include, and now that I'm here and I'm saying this, I'm going to try to include Allegheny East each and every time. So there's a reason for you to click or to subscribe. So there's going to be something, one of your churches or an upcoming event or something. You can always also directly, when it comes to the e-newsletters, you can directly contact me. Email me if there's something coming up at your church that you'd like to just advertise. The advertisements on the far right column, those are paid. But if you just want like a little link to take you somewhere about upcoming summer camp or something at your church, just contact me. And we also have Facebook and all those other social media. Someone asked the question, how do we refer to brother and sister in an article? My response is, you never put brother or sister. We don't know if it's an actual brother or sister. And I've messed that up before. The abbreviation, there's no abbreviation as far as Associated Press and Visitor Style Guide for brother and sister. Just like we don't put Mr., Mrs., Elder, or Deacon. We just put their names. We know that they are our brother in Christ or sister in Christ, but if I see that it's sister, I'm going to ask Latasha, I'm going to ask one of you, and say, is that really her sister? If it is, then I'll put sister lowercase. Yeah. Yeah. What's it?
Hi. How do you address a pastor who has a doctorate? For instance, if you're doing an invitation to an event for this pastor, he's a pastor and he's a doctor, what is the correct way of doing that?
So in the video, it's hard to capture everything. We don't go with doctor before his name or her name. it would be afterward. The best is to identify what he's a doctor in. Is he a PhD? Is what is like? Is he has a master's or undergraduate or something in a certain area, a ministerial that received. You're saying just like a D-Min? And are you referring to, are you just announcing something about him or within an article? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when you think of doctor, prior to a name, what do you think of?
Medical.
Yeah, a medical doctor. So a lot of times it also depends on their ego.
Yeah, most of the time.
We're all humans. Do I say Ricardo Bacchus, visitor editor or assistant editor? I mean, we're all people, but if they really insist on it, you would put the PhD, D-Min, the different categories that I mentioned, and it's in the video. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. As well as pastor. We actually don't put the word pastor most times before a pastor's name. We put it after. A pastor of the certain church.
In most of my reference to my pastor, who, as I said, has a doctorate,
Yes.
I would write Pastor so-and-so, right? And I would write doctor. Well, yeah, I wrote Dr. So-and-so, pastors, but not together because they were writing like Pastor Doctor so-and-so
Yes.
together, which I don't think is correct.
No. You could say pastor. You could say the name.
Doctor so-and-so.
You could say the name who holds a degree in this, comma.
Right.
And also pastor of it. It does extend the word count. It does. But I'm speaking for the visitor style guide and for the Associated Press. And excuse me. And that's the style. Now here's the thing. If your style is wrong, if you want to be in say doctor first, be consistent. And if that's how your pastor would like to be referred to as in print or online, be consistent with it. Say it always that way. Doctor so-and-so. And not the next time so-and-so doctor. So if you want to be consistently wrong, be consistent. No, okay. As long as you're consistent in one way or another. Yes. Mike's coming.
I just wanted to know for the photos that you take, and also, I don't know, for the other ones that do videos as well, but do you have to get photo release forms
For the kids, yes. For the kids, or if it's a photo of a kid that has permission from their parents. Sometimes all we need is written permission, or Latasha tells me it's okay, it's already, been vetted, it's fine. I just go with that. But we do have a photo release form, authorization form. For everything else, like if kids, minors is what I'm talking about. If it's a congregation shot, and like if I'm taking a picture here and there's a kid back over there, it's fine. It's fine. There's no issue with that. It's if the focal point is this 20-year-old lady right here, or no, I guess 10, and that's where the caption is. I'm gonna need more than just. I need some type of verbal agreement or written or photo release form to come back to me saying that it's okay to use her. We deal with that a lot with the schools too. And we have to make sure that, because the schools all of them are pretty much minors.
VBS program?
Same goes for that.
For VBS, yes.
Yeah.
Usually people have them fill it out in the beginning to let them know that we will use this for promotion.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have a release form. and you can adapt it for.
This will be like to you also, if you necessarily don't have anything written, like a good article, and you have all the information and the pictures, we can just submit it to you.
And then Latasha will ask you more questions, maybe interview a little bit more, because we're not all writers, you know. But if we gather, if we're seekers, if we look, we talk, we listen, we can gather information. And Latasha's very good at formulating the story, and I'm okay at editing it. And then, boom. And we're not saying we're going to use every single story of yours, because we can't have a Mount Olivet Church story every single time. But we can always maybe, and I haven't talked to Natasha about this, maybe we could put some of those, let's say there's two great stories from Mount Olivet. One goes in print and one goes online, and that's okay. You know, it's more work for us, but that's okay. Any questions from this side? Are you ready to write? You ready to edit? Are you ready to eat? Okay, one last question here.
Do you have a template for the e-letter or?
Well, that's the question from over here. Have you heard of MailChimp or those types of e-newsletter? Yeah. Those are your templates. It would have to go through a service like that. It's a paid subscription. Again, we use Emma, E-M-M-A. It works for us, but I think we're gonna try to transition over to MailChimp. And again, we have the whole analytics thing going on to see who clicks on what, and percentage-wise. About 30%, which is actually a good number, of people clicking on our newsletter. And here's the thing: when I first got to 2 years ago to Columbia Union, there were 5,000 subscribers, and I was very impressed. But 3,000 of those were bots. So when I filtered everything out, they were just like robots. So we have about 2,000. That's why I need you guys to pump it up. And not just that, we like to share news that's happening, breaking news during the week, and just keep you informed.
And just to add to that, in your program book, we do have some ideas. One of them was MailChimp for the e-newsletter. The other one is Benchmark
Okay.
email.
That's right.
That's what we use at the conference. So. All right, can we give Ricardo a round of applause? I think that was helpful information. We're inspired to write now. Okay, so it's 12:06, and as I shared with you, we want to take a group photo before we break for lunch today. We'll do another one tomorrow. So, Pastor Bradley, do you mind taking the photo for us? Okay, so we're going to make this seamless